Ba 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 ba. We are live. Ba ba ba. There we go. It's working. It's working. All right. Let's do this. Ready?
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Let's do this. I am slightly caffeinated, so we begin in 3, 2, 1. This is Life is Leet episode 31 for Saturday, February 28, 2015. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Life is Leet. This is a podcast of nerds yelling at microphones about things. I am Jesse Hanna, and joining me today, as always, is my co-host and younger brother, Aaron. How you doing today?
I am doing pretty all right, actually.
Cool. So, yeah, we're back at this 2 episodes in a row for the first time in I don't even know how long. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Last week we talked about one of the big releases that happened since our hiatus began, and today we're talking about the other one, that is Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, which I just finished. Well, I beat the Elite Four anyway, last night. Finally, it only took me, 4 months? Whereas, how long have you been done with the game?
Oh, I finished it within a week.
That's just because you're insane.
Yep.
Anyway, so we're each going to go into just our thoughts on it and kind of review it and see where we think it is as far as the whole of all of the main series of Pokemon games, including remakes. Aaron, do you want to start us off?
Just give me a sec. I've got a bunch of tabs open at once on one window. Okay, hang on.
Yeah,
okay, here we go.
We're getting back into this. Well, we're still getting used to podcasting again.
All right. So, I like Dora's a lot. Enough to name it my game of the year for 2014. Probably because it stuck with me the most out of any of the other games that I played.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a bunch of neat features. They're all pretty cool. Because of the fact that Game Freak likes to shuffle around features across different games, I think most of the fans have learned to never take one feature for granted. And DexNav and Sora are probably the two best ones.
Yeah, being able to soar around on the back of Latios or Latias, I'm having so much fun with it. I had added Latios to my party just to have someone who could learn dive, and I ended up teaching him fly in the meantime. But ever since I got the Eon flute, I just had him forget fly entirely and have just been using that because it's so much fun.
Yeah, you don't even need him in the party. You just need to have him in the flute.
Well, I have
bam, there you go.
I have had him in my party, and I'll talk about that more when I get to my experience with the game. But it is a lot of fun.
Yeah, Sword is it's just fun. If nothing else, it's just a fun way to explore the overworld.
Yeah, it's a
in a
neat
sense.
little thing that they added on.
And then DexNav also makes it possible to catch a lot of critters, which is neat. At some point, I might be going through and filling out as much of my Dex as I can.
Yeah, I started out trying to finish off each zone, catch all of the Pokemon available in each zone, but then it got to where I just wanted to get done with the story first. But DexNav does make it really easy to see what Pokemon are in a zone, and eventually makes it easier to start going for Pokemon with different natures, with egg moves, with perfect IVs. It's
that
great.
Stuff. And then let's be honest, Pokemon games are not meant to be super difficult. They've always been incredibly easy.
Mm-hmm.
Some may be more easier than others, like X and Y. But if you're not, but I didn't use the experience share at any point throughout my first playthrough, and I was about 10 levels under by the time I hit the final boss, even with exploring every area and fighting pretty much everyone I could.
Oh wow, you were that far underleveled.
Yeah. And I didn't use the EXP share once during my entire playthrough.
Okay,
and I was just using the same 6 Pokemon.
Okay, and when we get to my experience in the game again, I'll talk a bit about my experience with that.
Yeah. but it was still and then there's also a little post-game story, which I also thought was pretty neat. And the last three fights of that are definitely the highlight of the entire thing. And I wouldn't mind seeing more of those kind of post-game plot lines if they're if Game Freak can make them that much of a highlight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is really the first time that they've had a major storyline post. Well, okay. Gold and Silver, the Gen 2 games and their remakes, you have the whole thing where after you beat the Elite Four and Lance, you go through the Kanto region.
Yeah, it's pretty much just a giant boss rush at that point.
Yeah, but it's not the same as like having another whole storyline.
Yeah.
Following the main main quote unquote story as in beating the Elite Four.
Yeah.
There's a storyline that ends before then, but that's what you consider the main story.
Yeah. And to be honest, I feel like Pokemon does main game a lot better anyway in some cases. Because with post game, yeah, you get some new areas to explore, and that's all pretty neat. And some of them are really cool, but then once you're done with that, there's not much else.
Mm-hmm.
And it still kind of tends to be the case with the whole post game story thing. But, whatever. It's still pretty good.
Yeah, and I've heard it's not a very long story. The post game
No,
story.
it's not. The Delta episode, I beat that all in like one day.
Yeah,
it's not that long. It's fun, but it could stand to be a little longer.
Yeah, the only reason that I haven't beaten it yet is because I beat the Elite Four last night and then got a little ways into the Delta episode and I was just passing out, so I went to bed instead of finishing it last night. But I am probably going to finish it tonight.
Okay. But in my personal opinion, I think these are the second best Pokemon games to date, in my opinion. Second only to Black and White 2.
Okay.
A lot of people say that these are like would probably say that these are bad remakes, if only because they didn't contain like the 2 or 3 areas that Emerald didn't have, one of which is a giant Hax Island. That's essentially what the Battle Frontier is and always will be.
Pretty much.
I never really found that sort of thing fun. But to be honest, and you've beaten the game at this point, so you've seen the credits, so I think I can spoil this to you. Well, it's been out for what?
Good point. It's been out for about what 3-4 months now
at this point. But I don't know.
If you haven't played it yet, for any of our listeners who haven't played it yet, go ahead and skip forward about 30 seconds.
Well, well, I was going to say, whatever.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. We've given our spoiler warning.
Well, I kind of, because there's a certain line in the credits that's like based on the works of the original Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, it makes me kind of think of it as less of a just straight lazy remake with Emerald features like what Heart Gold and Soul Silver did, and more of a like, we should take Ruby and Sapphire and expand upon it a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of is a remake, but at the same time, the remakes that have been done in the past were just like, hey, let's take this game that everyone liked and then include features from the third game because people only remember the third game.
Yeah. Well, the Fire Red and Leaf Green did add a lot of stuff.
Well, yeah, but I think most of that was just like all new.
Yeah.
Like the Sevi Islands, I think those were originally going to be in the game originally, but those were cut because they say time constraints, but I really just think no, it's because the Game Boy was crappy.
Yeah,
that much.
Time and probably technical constraints as well. I think you're right. But yeah, Heart Gold, Soul Silver were basically gold and silver with a couple extra bells and whistles just dropped onto
Crystal.
Just dropped onto Diamond and Pearl, and that was pretty much it.
Yeah, just like gold and silver with Diamond and Pearls and crystals, bells and whistles.
Yeah.
And not much else.
Yeah, but I got kind of the same vibe from Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire that you did. And if you have the player's guide, I strongly recommend either picking it up if you don't have it, or if you do have it and haven't read the interview at the beginning with the game director and executive producer. It's an excellent interview, and they really talk about how it wasn't just porting the game to the 3DS. They rebuilt the game basically from scratch in the X and Y engine, and just recreated the world and the events of the storyline, and like partly rewrote the story to just make it a better game, not just a port, but actually properly remaking the game. And
To be honest, I think this would have been better than just just tacking on Emerald's features. But if you
Right.
like Emerald because of the Battle Frontier, then that's fine. Because honestly, if you were to ask Omega Ruby or Emerald, then I'd honestly say it depends on what you want.
Yeah.
Like if you don't care about the Battle Frontier, then Omega Ruby easily. But if you do care about the Frontier for whatever weird reason, then yeah, Emerald's fine.
Yeah. Well, I came into this really expecting, actually really excited for the world and the story of Ruby and Sapphire in the engine of X and Y, and I really can say that I was not disappointed. I
Oh,
think
well, yeah, no.
I think the changes that they made to the story, it's one of the best stories of the Pokemon games.
And coming from the fact that the series has never had much of a story outside of Black and White.
Right.
Yeah.
Black and White were really the first time that it had a serious story to it. So considering that, especially, they did an excellent job of updating the story of Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire. I definitely think that was improved over the originals.
Yeah.
You basically save the world, and then you go into space and have space fights.
And save the world again.
And save the world again. You save the world
Yep.
multiple times, plus you get space fights in the middle of it.
And that all while riding on a giant green space dragon.
Yes, if
That's
you
the best part.
if you'd told me that that was going to be in, I'd have been, where do I sign up? I was already in line to get this game. If you had told me from the beginning that it was going to have space fights, then I could not.
Yes, please.
It's like what happened to me between when Blizzard announced Hearthstone and when I actually got into the beta of Hearthstone. It was several months of just pure agony of needing to, like, a psychological addiction to a game that I had never even actually touched.
It was like that with being Heroes of the Storm. Hey.
Exactly. Blizzard has a knack for that. And if Nintendo had told us this was going to happen to begin
Well, they
with.
did. They did, like, maybe a month before the game came out.
Well, okay, yeah, but that's like right before. But that would have given me just the same, just
Where do I sign up?
must have now that I've had for pretty much only ever Blizzard games, really. Well, okay,
Yeah.
Blizzard games and X and Y are the games that have made me feel like that. So overall, I think I'm in agreement with you as far as where Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire rank in the main series of games. I would put it right behind X and Y. It's not as good as them, but it's still excellent. And they made me want to go back and play Emerald, actually. I've got a game that I've been slowly working my way through in Emerald that I want to go back and finish now after finishing Omega Ruby. So I might start working on that. I had the exact opposite experience that you did with the leveling curve in this game. I left the EXP all on, and by the time I got to the Elite Four, I was pretty consistently about 10 to 12 levels overpowered compared to everyone that I was, including the gym leaders. And the final gym, I soloed with Latios, and even he was pretty close to being on level with the rest of the game by that point. But everyone else in my team was 10, 12 levels ahead of everything else, just about all the way up to the first time I really had any trouble was the fight against Steven, the champion at the very end of the game. And even that, I did kind of end up squeaking by, but I think it was mostly because I just had a bad type matchup. I didn't have any fire type moves to take on his Mega Metagross with. So that was kind of a mistake on my
Wait,
part.
why do you just have Makuhita listed? Or do you mean like its evolution?
Oh, yeah, my team by the end of the game was Latios, Sceptile. I wrote down Makuhita, but I meant Hariyama. It was the Makuhita that you can trade for early in the game. I just did that, and so he was even more overleveled because of the bonus XP. So yeah, that should say Hariyama, and I'll change that. I'll have that fixed in the show notes. Masquerain, who I really didn't end up using a whole lot, but was situationally really useful. Being able to pull out and use a air slash or a what's the I forget what the something wind.
Silverwind.
Silverwind, maybe. That may be it. I think so. Yeah, being able to pull him out situationally and use that. And then Gardevoir, who I've always been a fan of Gardevoir and Gallade. And so even though it takes a lot of patience to raise a Ralts, but it's always been worth it to me just to be able to get to Gardevoir because it's so awesome. And Mightyena rounded out my team. That was the team that I beat the Elite Four with. And by the time I beat Steven, all of them except for Latios were between about level 63 and 65, and Latios was level 55.
Yeah, when I beat the game, mine were 50 to 52, so that's quite a difference.
Yeah, so
For reference, the final boss's Pokemon is 50 or levels 57 to 59.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was fun.
So you had a very similar experience to what the original leveling curve in Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald was like. Whereas
I mean, to be fair, it's better than the original Gold and Silvers.
That's okay. That's true. Fair point. But I've always had the most trouble with the leveling curve in Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald. I don't know why. That one's just always been really rough for me. But yeah, if you turn the EXP all on, then you'll have a much closer experience to X and Y of just being overpowered for for pretty much everything in the game. I'm breezing through the Delta episode right now with my team. So if you turn the EXP all on and just leave it on throughout the game, then you won't have any trouble beating anything all the way up until the end. The biggest complaint, though, that I've heard about these games is that there's too much water in the overworld, too many water Pokemon, just too much water. And there is water everywhere in this game. But I really didn't think it was that bad. I didn't think it was as big a problem as some people said. My Mightyena, I actually caught my Mightyena as a Poochyena with Thunderfang using DexNav. And that that combined with Sceptile were my antidote to all the water Pokemon, and I really didn't have all that much trouble with it. The only major complaint really that I could say that I did have is that there are too many water HMs, because you've got Surf and you've got Dive and you've got Waterfall, and it was tough to find room for all of them. I switched Latios into my party and switched out Linoon. I had originally had Linoon with Surf, but then when it came time for me to Dive to progress in the story, I didn't have anyone who knew or could learn Dive. And so I decided to switch Latios in for Linoon, taught Latios Dive, ended up teaching him Waterfall too. But it was just kind of clunky to try to find the room for that. And I think that's part of why I ended up having a bad matchup against Steven at the very end of the game, was having to find room for all those HMs. Rock Smash as well.
But once you get to the end, you could ditch most of them.
Well, yeah. Like I said, I got rid of Fly as soon as I got the Eon Flute. And after you Dive as part of the main story, then you really don't need it again other than exploration.
Yeah. I think by the time I beat the game, the only HM I had was Surf, and that's because it's a really good move anyway.
Well, yeah, Surf is really the only one that's really practically useful. Rock Smash and Strength, you really just need to get to places. So once you're done with them, same deal with Cut, and Waterfall and Dive, whereas Surf you actually use to get around the world.
Yeah.
And with the Eon Flute, that makes Fly pretty much obsolete. So yeah, really the only one that you need after you've done everything else in the game that you need those other HMs for is Surf.
Yeah.
So that's really my only major complaint, though. The story is what it is. We've already talked about that, and so again, I would give it about an A overall and put it right behind X and Y, as far as the overall pantheon of Pokemon games. So I'd say it's a pretty good success for Game Freak.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I think that's going to cover it for our review of Pokemon Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire. So let's move on now to we're each going to cover just a couple of quick topics. I'm going to review a couple of anime series that I've been watching. Aaron's going to review a series that he's been watching, and that's pretty much going to be it. I'm going to start off by talking about Sailor Moon Crystal, which I have still been keeping up with. They're still putting out one episode every other week. And right now they have just gotten into, or I think they're 3 episodes into what was in the original anime, Sailor Moon R. Yeah, I think they're about 3 episodes into that. So they finished the Dark Kingdom arc, and the way that it ended, I didn't feel the way that arc ended. I didn't feel was quite as climactic as in the original anime or as in the manga. Even though they did stick really close to the manga, it is starting to kind of come into the front that they don't exactly have the biggest budget or the most resources in trying to make this series. And I don't entirely understand why. They are doing a really good job, but you can tell that there's a lot more that they want to do with it that they just can't quite manage to pull off. And I don't know if that's a direction thing or if it's quite as much a resources thing as I think it really is. But overall, they are doing a very good job of adapting the manga story. So if you've been wanting a Sailor Moon series that is more of an adaptation of the manga than just a retelling of the story, then I think Sailor Moon Crystal is still your thing. If you're looking for a remake of the old anime, then that's not what you're getting here. And it's kind of hard to put into words exactly what it is, but I think it's by trying to fit one chapter of the manga into one episode of the anime, and they did have to kind of break from that at the end of the Dark Kingdom arc. And they ended up stretching some things out, they ended up compressing some other things, and everything at the very end just happened kind of fast, and it was still good. It was still really good. But it didn't have that feel of a big dramatic ending and then beginning again that the original anime had and that you get in the manga. So overall, I would still give Sailor Moon Crystal a good solid thumbs up, but it does feel like it could have been more than it is. I am still enjoying it, though. I'm still going to see it all the way through, and I do really hope that they adapt the remainder of the manga after they finish the Black Moon arc, that they go on to what was originally Sailor Moon S, Super S, and Stars. I really do hope that they continue the series after the initial season, the first season, which will go 25 episodes, 26, I think, something like that, and we'll cover through the end of the Black Moon arc. So I hope they continue it after that, but it does feel like it could be more than it has been so far. So I'm a little bit disappointed, but I am still really enjoying it. So I do still give it a solid recommendation. Aaron, you've still been watching JoJo's, it looks like.
Yeah, that started up. That, I think, went off and then back on again during our intermission.
Okay, they're on what, season 2 of...
Yeah, season 2 of Stardust Crusaders.
That's it. That's what it was called, Stardust.
And this is the point when they actually get into Egypt.
Oh boy.
Which for those of you who aren't in the know of JoJo's, which I wouldn't blame you, the entire goal of Stardust Crusaders, for the first part of it anyway, is to get into Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it still is pretty good. The characters, I never really thought much about the story and the character plot characters and plot elements of JoJo's that much. I just watch it to see people punch things.
Well, I always assumed that was the point of watching JoJo's, was just watching, in your own words, manly men punching things.
Yeah, I guess, but it does have some pretty a pretty colorful cast of characters with all with equally strange powers.
It's aptly titled. It's an adventure,
it's
and
bizarre.
it's bizarre.
It's bizarre. What else could be said?
It is what it says on the box.
Yeah, pretty much. And it does a good job at delivering on the bizarre part. Like, you don't really notice it in the third part because that's when the concept was first introduced. But stats can get narrowed down to where they have really, really strange and very specific powers that you would think, why would this be useful in any situation? Like, there's lots of examples. I just can't think of them right now.
Aquaman.
Kind of like Aquaman, yes. But there isn't
situationally useful superpowers.
Yes, pretty much. At least that's what they seem like on paper. But then I'm willing to bet that once you actually get to the part where they actually use their powers, it's just like, what? They have more applications than we thought?
Well, okay.
That's madness. But yeah, it's a great show. You should go watch it.
Yeah, I haven't been keeping up with it. My backlog on Crunchyroll is way, way overstuffed. I've got so many things that I'm in the middle of watching have put on hold, and I just haven't had quite as much time lately to watch very much anime. But I do mean to go back to it at some point. All right, so does that pretty much cover it for JoJo's? Yeah. Okay. Last thing that I'm going to talk about is a series that if you were planning on watching it streaming online, too bad because it just got taken off of Hulu at the beginning of this month. But it's probably the best sports anime series that I've watched, and it's called Cross Game. It's based on a manga from mid 2000s, I think, is when it was published, and the anime adaptation is from 2008 to 2010, I believe. So it's fairly recent. And it is about I think I've talked about the manga on previous episodes, but it's about a boy who has no interest in baseball until he's encouraged to join a local team by his pretty much his girlfriend, who they're only in elementary school at the beginning of the story, but she says some things that really make him think that he could play and wants to be good at baseball. And then she dies in an accident, and fast forward to him getting ready to join his high school team and on his way to becoming one of the best recognized high school pitchers in Japan. And that's the bulk of the series, is them going through him and his friends and the younger sister of his childhood friend going through and trying to reach the National High School Baseball Finals, which take place at Koshien. So that's what the National Baseball Championships are referred to in Japan as, is Koshien. And I call it a sports anime, but it's really a drama, romance comedy anime that sports also happens to be happening in. But for that, they've also done a really good job of accurately depicting baseball. There's some sports anime that are primarily some other genres, like comedy or romance, and the sport is really just an afterthought. They just throw in oblique references to and depictions of the sport, but anyone who actually watches that sport would cringe at how badly it's done. Whereas with Cross Game, you can tell, and it's not the only baseball manga that the original author has done. He's done a couple other series, and you can tell by how much effort is put into accurately depicting not just the game, but things like the mechanics of pitching are very well and very accurately portrayed in the series. So if you like baseball, and then you'll probably like Cross Game. If you like romance series and aren't even that much into baseball, you'll probably still like Cross Game because it's also a really good romantic comedy series. So you kind of kill two birds with one stone there. Easy for me to say, but overall it's a really good series. I got hooked on the manga as soon as I picked it up. So I definitely recommend checking that out. It's on the Viz Manga app if you have that, or go to vizmanga.com. And the anime was streaming on Hulu, but I don't think it is anymore. So you may have to hunt around a bit to be able to find that. But both the anime and the manga are very good. I definitely give them both a solid thumbs up for any fan of either genre of anime, really, whether it's sports or romantic comedy, drama, that sort of thing. It's a very good series, definitely worth your time. The manga is 8 mega volumes long. They don't sell just the individual volumes; they sell them in like the 3-in-1 volumes. So it's 8 of those, and the anime is 50 episodes. So it's a good, sizable series. It's not endless and ongoing, but it's a good, solid watch and a good read. So that's Cross Game. That's definitely a solid recommendation from me. And I think that's pretty much going to do it for this episode. Was there anything else that you wanted to cover, Aaron?
No, not particularly. I was going to talk about video games when anime happens, so that'll be next week.
All right. So yeah, we'll probably be talking about more video games next week.
And I've got a lot of them.
Oh boy, yeah, I do too. I've got a backlog kind of games that I've been meaning
some single player, multiplayer stuff abound.
Meaning to play, meaning to talk about. I'm going to talk a bit about EVE Online next week. I've been playing that again lately, so I'm going to talk a bit about that. And I'm also going to talk a bit about FF14, Final Fantasy 14. So it's going to be MMO week for me next week.
For me, it's going to be a bit of a mix of single and multiplayer. On the multiplayer side, like I said, I would talk about this week. I'm going to talk about Smash Brothers and D&D from a tabletop perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And then for single player, I'm actually going to talk about a little game that I've been playing this past week, and hopefully I won't have fallen off the train by the time that next week rolls around. Fallout New Vegas, and maybe Skyrim.
All right, sounds awesome. So that's pretty much going to do it for this episode. If you want to find our show notes, find MP3 downloads of the show, links to our Facebook, Twitter, Google Plus pages, links to subscribe to the podcast via RSS or on iTunes, all of that can be found at our website, which is lifeisleet.com. That's LIFEISLEET.com. If you want to find us directly on Facebook, that's at fb.me/lifeisleet. We're on Twitter at @lifeisleet, and on Google Plus at +lifeisleet podcast. We live stream every time we record a new episode, so you can find those usually on Saturday afternoons, and they will always be at our website at lifeisleet.com/live, and you can come join the live chat room there and hang out with us while we record the show. I'm Jesse. I write this thing, so if anything is wrong, blame me. All the stuff that I do is at jbhanna.net or at @jbhanna. Aaron streams things every once in a while at twitch.tv/Plato0, that's PLATO and the number 0, and I stream things every once in a while at twitch.tv/JBHanna, and later this evening I may get on and stream a little bit of Shadow of Mordor, maybe a little bit of FF14, or maybe even some Hearthstone, so keep an eye out on our Facebook and Twitter pages for details on that when either one of us goes live. And if you have any comments, feedback, suggestions, recommendations, audio attachments that you want us to play, send all of those to us at podcast@lifeisleet.com. That's going to do it for this week. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. For me, for Aaron, till next time, everyone within the sound of my voice, take care.
Bye.
And recording stopped, and stream is somewhere. There we go. And